Lesia Vasylenko, Deputy MP in the Ukrainian Parliament, member of the Holos party, which is the Ukrainian word for truth, incidentally. And she, as I say, just joins me now. Lesia, thanks so much for joining us this morning. How worried are you about the proposals which have been outlined?
Thank you, Lewis. It's a pleasure to be here. The 28-point so-called peace plan, it's nothing that we haven't seen before. I mean, it's another iteration of Russia putting proposals on the table and then the US delivering this to Ukraine for consideration. There's the actual 28 points, they contradict themselves. The first point says it's all about maintaining Ukraine's sovereignty, but then the rest of the 27 points, all of them are about undermining Ukraine's sovereignty. So things like that, they just simply don't make sense, along with the fact that it's the victim, Ukraine, that is made to make concessions and to limit its own capacity to defend itself rather than Russia, the aggressor.
President Zelenskyy has said on Friday that he felt that he was being forced to choose between the dignity of Ukraine and the United States as an ally. Is that your analysis as well?
It is. This is what the president of Ukraine has voiced is actually the sentiment among our troops, among our soldiers, those most dignified Ukrainians that today are fighting for Ukraine's existence and for the existence of democracy on the front line. And this is what they're saying. To sign this act of 28 points would be to sign an act of capitulation of Ukraine.
You think it would be a surrender agreement?
It would be a surrender agreement, most certainly.
Do you think there is any possibility, if Trump were to insist that those were the points, or more or less the points, do you think that the President Zelenskyy would have no choice but to reject them?
Well, these points, they are essentially a Russian plan, co-signed or I wouldn't like to say endorsed or co-signed, but somehow submitted by the US. So it's a Russia-US plan rather than a plan drawn up for Ukraine, for Europe's security, Europe's regional security by Ukraine and Europe, and then put forward to Putin to consider. And this is the proper way that it should be, not the other way around. So just to sign up blindly to some of Russia's demands that have been around for a very long time, that would definitely mean a loss for not just Ukraine, but it would mean a loss for any hope for long-term peace and stability in Europe.
Do you think that there would be any constituency in the Ukrainian parliament to accept limitations on the size of the Ukrainian army?
Limitations on the size of the Ukrainian army in return for what? There is no guarantees for Ukraine in that plan. There is no limitations on the Russian army in that plan. And it's Russia who attacked Ukraine, not the other way around. There is a point in that plan saying that should Ukraine attack Russia at any point in time, then Ukraine loses some ephemeral security guarantees which are not even written out in that plan. Ukraine has never attacked Russia.
Trump's argument, as you know, and in particular it appears to be J.D. Vance, the vice president's argument, has been to say that President Zelenskyy is increasingly isolated or weaker internally. And in terms of the war as well, although Russia is paying a heavy, heavy price for every square inch of Ukrainian territory that he seizes, nonetheless has been incrementally on the advance for some time. And that therefore the chances of any Ukrainian victory do not exist. And therefore an accommodation has to be made. And that's what he's trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing is, American politicians have anticipated that Ukraine would not hold even for 3 days when Russia initially escalated their aggression in 2022. We are in our 4th year. The fact about Ukraine is that we are a nation that will keep on fighting because we understand that the minute we stop fighting with all that we have and whatever it is that we have, there will be no longer Ukraine and a Ukrainian nation. So we really don't have a choice here. All the other speculations that, Russia is making advances, Ukraine will not have it in them to carry on. Let's be very honest as well. Russia is making those advances and is able to make those advances because the sanctions are not strong enough. The sanctions are working. Russia is weakened, but they are not strong enough to put a full stop in Russia's capacity to mass produce the weapons and continue attacking Ukraine. Now, the question to ask is, why is that?
Would the Ukraine, you think, rather continue to fight, even if it is without American support, than sign a document that is anything like which has been proposed?
At the moment, Ukraine has huge European support. And if we look at the numbers of how much Europe has been providing through this past year especially, the amounts are bigger than what the US has provided.
So do you think that this is a moment, or what we might see this week is a moment where not just Ukraine, but Europe collectively has to decide that this is something that we will prosecute on our own?
I think that's the only way for Europe to survive, for Europe to have the stable long-term peace and stability on the continent, is by pulling its forces together and standing in solidarity for Ukraine, but in solidarity for its own defense and security framework.
Lesia Vasylenko, Deputy in the Ukrainian Parliament, grateful for your time this morning. As I say,